So today we're going to start with kingdoms and domains. They are the largest group of classification or taxon, and we're going to look a little bit about how they are broken down. We'll start off with kingdoms just because they've changed a lot, even within my lifetime. We have gone from 5 kingdoms to 6 kingdoms, and who knows, maybe in your lifetime it will change again. You can see that in the 1700s, when Linnaeus first developed this classification system, we only had 2 kingdoms, plants and animals. If it didn't move, it was considered a plant. If it moved, it was considered an animal. Well, with the development and advances in science and technology, in the late 1800s, we have the microscope now, and we are able to see microscopic organisms. Those microscopic organisms don't necessarily fit into plant or animal kingdoms, so they were given their own, the Protista or Protist kingdom. By the 1950s, again, a little bit more advances in technology and science, and we can now see that funguses, okay, are a little bit different than plants. Yes, they look like them, they're immobile, but fungi are not autotrophs, they are heterotrophs. They do not make their own food, so they are different than plants and deserve their own kingdom. We also see that the protists have split again. Now we have Monera, which are mostly bacteria, compared to the protists. In the 1990s, we even split those Monera again to eubacteria and archaea bacteria, and we'll talk more about those here shortly. Through the use of the molecular clock model, scientists have been able to compare ribosomal RNA and find out exactly how similar organisms are, and this has allowed us to, kind of really look at the molecular level of organisms, how similar are they, and then how long ago did they kind of start to develop differently. Were they pretty much the same species up until 50 years ago? Were they pretty much the same species 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 1,000,000 years ago, 1.5 million years ago? When did they start to, develop down different paths? Domains. Domains are the most inclusive organism classification. There are 3 domains: bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. Okay, we fall under eukarya. We are eukaryotic. We have eukaryotic cells, so we fall under the eukarya. Domain bacteria. Organisms that fall under the bacteria domain are unicellular. They're prokaryotic. They have no nucleus. They have a thick, rigid cell wall containing peptoglycan, and they correspond with the kingdom Eubacteria. The next domain, archaea, are unicellular organisms. They are prokaryotic or prokaryotes. Again, they have no nucleus. These are the bacteria and organisms found in extreme environments. So sulfur springs or hydro vents, 6 miles under the ocean, volcanoes, brine pools, the Dead Sea, any place where you pretty much think nothing can live, these things are living there. The difference is they do not have peptoglycan in their cell walls, and they have some unusual lipids found in their cell membranes, and the corresponding kingdom is archaea bacteria. The last domain, which we are more familiar with, is eukarya. Consists of all organisms that have a nucleus, and then it has 4 corresponding kingdoms: protist, fungi, plants, and animals. You can see the classifications here. We have the domains across the top, kingdoms, cell types, cell structures, and you can see how they differ across. If we look at kingdoms, we'll start with protist. They're kind of the junk drawer, catch-all. They consist of organisms that cannot be classified as fungi, plants, or animals. They're mostly unicellular, but not always. Some are photosynthetic, some are not. Again, these are organisms that are kind of like something, but not really, and we're not quite sure where to put them, so it's a catch-all. Some fit very nicely in this group, others leave and come back as different people classify them. Then we have the kingdom of fungi. These organisms are heterotrophic. Yes, they look like plants, but they cannot make their own food. They need help getting it. Mostly they feed on dead and decaying matter. To feed on it, they secrete digestive enzymes and then absorb the food molecules. Most of the time you're going to think, when you see fungi or think of it, you're going to think of mushrooms, which is true, and they are multicellular, but some fungi are unicellular, like the yeast that is used in baking. Kingdom of Plantae, or plants, are multicellular organisms that are photosynthetic. They make their own food, and also their cell walls contain cellulose. And then lastly, not that you need it for your notes, but just to let you know that we will be classifying algae as a protist, not as a plant. Some people do look at algae as a plant, but because it is also single cellular, we are going to look at it as a protist. Lastly, we have the kingdom Animalia, which we are part of, multicellular, heterotrophic, are mobile at some point in their life. Just because an organism is immobile does not mean it is not an animal. Tunicates, the Daily Critique the other day, that looked like a gutty rock, or rock with guts, is a tunicate. At one point during its development, it actually is a free-swimming organism. And in adulthood it is not, but because during its life cycle it is mobile, it is considered an animal. And we just kind of know from looking at the different animals out there that it is a very diverse kingdom. So we're going to continue looking on at classifications, and hopefully looking at kingdoms and domains has helped you to understand why we classify organisms the way we do.